Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to have this Dharma talk is kind of in three parts. The first part is going to be a kind of psychological explanation of why our attachments to people are important. The second part is going to be the Buddhist perspective about why non-attachment is important in our practice. And the third part is talking about the tension between these two perspectives and the questions that arise from that tension for me, which I struggle with and I hope is relevant to everybody else in terms of their practice. Okay. And sorry, my voice is a little scratchy. I have allergies and it's bad allergy day. As some of you know, I am a psychotherapist. In the past, I have given several Dharma talks about the similarities and overlap between various psychological and Buddhist concepts. It has been interesting to me to see how Buddhism uses terms such as projection, containment, and mind objects in ways that are very similar to psychology. This overlap between psychotherapy and Buddhism is not surprising, since each is concerned with understanding how the mind works and how to decrease our emotional and mental pain. Today I want to look at two concepts that don't overlap, that in fact are opposites: the psychological view of the importance of attachment and the Buddhist perspective about non-attachment. I hope that some of my questions about the tension between these two concepts will be something people can relate to in their own practice and experience, and that discussing this tension might help our practice. From a psychological perspective, the need people have for healthy and secure attachments is seen as a fundamental part of human development that is important throughout life. As a psychotherapist, I am always interested in understanding the quality and nature of the attachments that a person grew up with, as well as the types of attachments a person has in his or her current life. I think a goal for most therapists is to help people build more satisfying, open, and close relationships in their lives. From a Buddhist perspective, attachment is also an important, even central issue of practice. Buddha saw attachments as leading to desires which result in feelings of greed, anger, and delusion. For Buddha, attachments caused both pain and distractions from our true nature, and so were obstacles to awakening. This understanding led to the importance of practicing non-attachment in order to free ourselves. In many ways, we live in an interpersonal world. From the very beginning of life, our attachment to others is essential to living. D.W. Winnicott, a well-known psychoanalyst, said, "There is no such thing as a baby." What he meant by this was that you could only speak of a baby in the context of its relationship with the mother or the mothering one. The baby is physically, psychologically, and emotionally dependent on the mother for its survival, and this causes a strong bond or attachment. You could also say there is no such thing as a mother. A mother only develops the qualities of a nurturing caregiver within the context of her relationship with the baby. The experience of mothering brings out qualities the mother did not use before having a baby. Harry Stack Sullivan, another psychoanalyst, described this relationship between mother and baby as the meeting of the baby's need for tenderness with the mother's need to give tenderness. And I'm talking about this as it's not just the pattern between mother and baby, but this is kind of like a foundation for patterns between people. We bring out the qualities in each other. The pattern of both people being shaped by the interaction between them goes on throughout life. In early childhood, the parents are attuned to the young child's need for attention, and when things go well, they reflect and encourage the toddler's feelings of excitement in his or her growing abilities, as well as the changing moods of joy, happiness, worry, and sadness. We all learn how to describe the world through the interaction with our parents, who not only teach us the words for different experiences and feelings, but provide the connotations or the hues to those feelings. So if a child is playing and falls, there's a big difference if a parent responds with a lot of anxiety or reacts with an attitude that everything is okay. One type of response, repeated many times, can lead to a child being anxious about the potential danger in situations. Another response conveys you can feel a temporary disruption of safety, a literal bump in the road, and go on. On another level, our parents respond to our interests and talents. On another level, how our parents respond to our interests and talents can either encourage us to develop certain abilities and aptitudes, to feel self-conscious or even negative about an aspect of our personality, or ignore and deny that part of ourselves. There is a psychological term for what I'm describing, which is called reflective appraisals. To a great extent, for much of our childhood, we form a sense of self based on the responses and reactions we receive from our parents. We see ourselves through their eyes, not completely, but with a deep influence. Somewhere around 11, 12, or 13, we often start the beginning of forming important attachments outside the family. This is the period where many children find a best friend who they can share secrets with and confide in. Through this kind of relationship, we start to learn how to care about another person's feelings, how to be supportive and encouraging. The ability to be considerate and caring may have developed before this time, but the experience of having a best friend greatly increases our ability to be empathetic. We also start to get feedback about ourselves from someone we trust who is outside the family. This can help balance or expand our sense of self-worth. Later on in adolescence, we can take the experience of the preteen friendship and bring that into an intimate relationship. A close, emotionally intimate relationship during adolescence can be very valuable in helping someone cope with the turmoil and uncertainty that is a normal part of that period. There is so much change going on during adolescence due to physical, cognitive, and emotional development. Having someone to get support and affection from, and reciprocally to give support and affection, provides some sense of security. Your boyfriend or girlfriend can see aspects of your personality that your family doesn't see. And this validation helps in affirming a sense of identity, which is a major developmental issue during this time. From a psychological viewpoint, one reason attachments are so important is that through generally positive relationships with others, we gradually develop a sense of self that is stable and secure. This involves a sense of identity and self-worth, as well as a set of values that gives us a compass to guide us through life. I have just described what is an outline of the positive development of attachments. We all know that life doesn't always go so smoothly. There can be negative types of attachments that begin in childhood and form the basis of difficult attachments as adults. When attachments have not been secure growing up, people can feel very anxious in their relationships, always worried that their partner will leave or abandon them. Other people may develop an excessive sense of responsibility in their early attachments. As adults, they may be prone to feeling guilty about any problems or conflicts that arise in a relationship and not be able to identify and express their own needs in the relationship. Still, other people who experience parents who are very critical and harsh may be critical towards their partners, creating distance in the relationship that they really don't want. For Buddha and other teachers that came after him, attachment is an important part of the human experience. We can be attached to many things. I have been focusing on our attachments to people, but we can also be attached to objects such as wealth and power. We can be attached to ideas such as certain ideologies, and we can be attached to images of ourselves that we hold important to our self-esteem. From a Buddhist perspective, all of these attachments lead to the desire to have pleasure and the desire to avoid pain. Attachment and desire cause a lot of the pain and distress in life. Even when we seem to be very fortunate and have most of what we have wished for, there is often the desire to have more wealth, more sexual partners, more fun. We even have a phrase for this, FOMO. For some people, no matter how much they succeed in life, it feels like they haven't done enough. And another aspect of our attachments to people, material possessions, and status is that when we lose these things, we can feel very anxious and depressed, as if we have lost part of ourselves. In some ways we have, because we have defined our self-worth as being dependent on having these external things that give us a sense of identity. Without someone to love us or a successful career, we may feel inadequate, empty, and despairing. The tension between seeking pleasure and avoiding pain makes us vulnerable to the ups and downs in life. Our most basic attachment, the attachment to ourself, causes us to be reactive to the conditions in our lives that are always in a flux of change. When conditions are good, we are happy. When they are difficult, we are sad, angry, and discouraged. Buddha saw this cycle of constantly changing responses to conditions as capturing people in what he called dukkha. By pursuing pleasure and dreading pain, people are always looking to fulfill themselves through attaining external security. Buddha realized through his own practice that true fulfillment came through looking inside and cultivating our true nature. In order to be free from the cycle of changing conditions, Buddha taught that we need to let go of these attachments because they are impermanent and therefore empty. By letting go of our attachments and desires, we can see ourselves and the world more clearly. So where does this tension between these two very different perspectives leave us? For me, part of the tension is that I think both are true. Humans are social animals like elephants, dolphins, and primates. We need social connection on many levels. We learn and develop by interacting with others, such as parents, teachers, colleagues, and friends. Just as importantly, emotional connection with others is essential to our well-being. This seems to be recognized by Buddhists in the establishment of the Sangha from the very beginning of Buddha's teaching. Having a community to practice with has been understood as providing a space where people can support and learn from each other, as well as a structure to help people maintain the consistency of practice. This helps to strengthen and deepen our practice. I think all of us have a sense of connection or an affinity with different Buddhist concepts. I had this kind of response to the idea of non-attachment early on in my practice. I think it is the idea of letting go that resonates with me. Letting go of our fears and along with that, our expectations of ourselves and others, even letting go of our thoughts. Somehow letting go of our preconceived notions and conceptions of the world leads to seeing things in a clearer, truer way. This is one way of describing liberation. Lao Tzu described the difference between attachment and non-attachment as, quote, "If you close your mind in judgments and traffic in desires, your heart will be troubled. If you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, your heart will find peace." I am nowhere close to doing this, but I think I have an intuitive sense of what non-attachment is. So as a practicing psychotherapist, the importance of our attachments is something that I focus on every day. As a practicing Buddhist, I try to cultivate a sense of non-attachment as part of practicing mindfulness. So I can be quite confused at times. On a more personal level, as a husband and father, I feel the attachments to my family as being very meaningful. Non-attachment to my own desire to be right or to control things, I think has helped me be more patient with my family members and more able to listen to their views. Yet sometimes I ask myself, how far do we take non-attachment when it comes to our families and significant others? Does deeper practice lead to being more detached from my own struggles, but also the struggles of those I care about? On some level, all of what we experience is impermanent and empty. Does that make it meaningless? On the other hand, Buddhism talks a lot about the importance of compassion, which seems to imply caring about the fears, disappointment, and pain of others. However, when we start to try to help people we are close to get out of being stuck in behaviors and thoughts that we can see are harmful, then we get attached to the need for them to change. In part, we need them to change to reduce our own anxiety, which can lead to frustration and criticism that makes things worse. So basically, I'm saying when you care about somebody, you sometimes put pressure on them to change for the better. They resent that, they push back, you get frustrated, they get frustrated with you. It's not good. I speak from personal experience. It seems difficult to find the right balance between attachment and non-attachment. Shunryu Suzuki used the phrase leaving traces to describe the experiential quality of attachments. Quote, "If you leave a trace of your thinking or your activity, you will be attached to the trace. We should not become attached to what we have done in some special sense. What we call attachment is just these traces of our thoughts and activities." I think that Suzuki is saying that we can have emotions and reactions to things, but if we can then let go and move on, we will not get entangled in them. We all have had the experience of going over a conversation with someone and playing it over and over in our minds, wondering, did we make a fool of ourselves or did we not stick up for ourselves enough? Suzuki is saying, just do things and let them go. In this way, he is linking non-attachment to present moment awareness or being in the moment. If we can stay focused in the moment, we won't dwell on what we did or didn't do. Clinging is a term that is often used as being interchangeable with attachment. We cling to our desires and the objects of our desires. The word clinging is useful to me in thinking about my practice because it makes the concept of non-attachment more tangible and possible. It seems more in reach to think about clinging less to my desires and wishes rather than trying to practice letting go completely. Clinging less tightly or less rigidly can be applied to a lot of situations. We can cling less to a particular person, which can help us individually and in the relationship. It helps us by feeling less anxious about losing the other person. Our partner or friend will notice the change in us and feel less pressure to meet our needs and expectations. This generally makes someone feel less controlled and more open to respond positively to us. We can cling less rigidly to our own ideas about how our lives should be lived. What kind of job we should have, when to get married or whether to get married at all, when to have children or not to have children. On a day-to-day level, we can cling less to our own opinions and the need to prove we are right in our discussions with other people. If we are less determined in our views of things, we can listen more openly to others' thoughts and feelings. This can make us more flexible and allow us to connect more to other people. I think this is one of the ways that non-attachment is intertwined with practicing mindfulness. Ironically, practicing non-attachment can help us have more positive attachments. Thank you.